ocean water and turn it into fresh water better than anybody else. I was 14 at the time when I started doing this, and
oh wow, that's a big deal.
Yep. Once we have that, then
King himself.
the king himself. You don't get to say as much anymore. I think it's safe to say anywhere once we get these few deals signed, anywhere from 7 to 10 would be a safe number. So
$1 million.
Yeah, that's a safe number. And then
dollars.
Yeah, and then the
not rubles.
No. The biggest thing I could give is, if you're persistent long enough, things will happen. So if you continue to be persistent and educate yourself and not give up, even if it might take years like it took me, eventually something's going to work out, and it's better than not doing anything at all. There's a few different books I can try to recommend, but
here or even like next month, you will be somewhere in Saudi Arabia wearing all this like clothing on a camel.
That's right. That's my plan. I want I'm involved in a company I founded called Technologies, and basically we take ocean water and turn it into fresh water better than anybody else. And it's a technology I invented, and then with my co-founder Zach Manweiler, we've been able to develop it into a commercially viable system, and been able to pull together all kinds of new team members and experts from around the world, and just led us into being able to meet and be involved with some pretty big time people like Saudi Arabia and Israel and nice. Navajo Nation and everybody else. So it's been.
How did it start? Did you? Was this your idea?
Yeah. So I was 14 at the time when I started doing this, and I was in a biology classroom and I saw a documentary on water scarcity, and as a confident 14-year-old, I was like, I think I can figure this out.
I like that confidence.
Yeah, it was kind of
for
dumb.
14 years old.
Yeah, I was like, I know nothing, but I think I can figure it out. But played too much Minecraft, I guess. But garage and testing stuff, and came across a few different processes that worked, and blew myself up a few times, which is fun. But eventually, when I was about to leave for college, I came across the idea I have now. I was instructed to come here. Dr. Provost I met when I was about 14 when I started doing stuff. I started trying to figure out solutions in my garage, and then eventually when I got a little older, I think I was 16 or somewhere around there, my dad was like, yeah, you should go talk to Wayne Provost. He was an inventor at one time. So I went and talked to him, and he was kind of somewhat of a mentor when I was doing my inventions and stuff I was trying to do. The main purpose was to come here for the plaza and to have the resources, and that's why I was either going to work on the project, or I was going to go to a good university and get a degree or something and then try to do it.
I see.
But then I was like, I want to do this now, so I heard there was going to be the plaza, so I decided to drop it. Business people I've had the pleasure of working with: John Cole, Jeff Stewart, Steve Donahue, and then people in Vegas, Renee Hathor, and so forth with Vantage Capital. I basically ended up meeting a lot of them because I needed to raise $100,000 to do a 36 gallon per minute system for Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, but I needed to accredit it with something. So I needed to get an expert that would say, this does work, people want it. So I called all around. I called GE, and the first person I called was the guy who wrote my desalination textbook that I read. His name was Nikolai Vuchkov, and I read that.
What was his name?
Nikolai Vuchkov. I don't know the last name.
Yeah, it's American spelling.
It's Bulgarian.
European names.
I can't do it, but his I'll learn it one day. But I was reading it, and I was like, if I need an expert, I'll go with this guy who wrote the book. So I tried to find his email, and eventually, was able to find it. I reached out to him, and luckily was able to get a phone call at like 4 a.m. with him because it's Saudi Arabian time or something. And he took it seriously, and I was like,
yeah,
okay, cool.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. And at that time, I talked to him. Somehow got a phone call with a guy at GE and a guy at Suez, all these big companies, just by reaching out and being persistent. and they all wanted to like fly out and stuff, and I had some small tests.
How will your conversation go, like, because you're a college kid,
yeah,
maybe not much money, not
Yeah.
funding, maybe not
Nothing.
even like an actual product.
yeah.
How was the conversation like?
I basically it was funny. So I had, at that time we had a small little thing in my friend Zach's with one little light bulb and everything. It was all messed up, and it was like an old quad in there. And I was like, the header was "solution to desalination" in all caps, exclamation mark. So they would see that in their inbox and be like, "Oh, what the heck is this?" I'll look at it. But I think one time I said "solution to desalination" parentheses we mean it.
That's a lot.
That way they knew it. But so I would somehow got them to read it, and then in it, I took a lot of time to write a very as much as I could professional kind of letter, saying, the student I worked with, DSU, I developed this thing, and we're doing small testing.
Yeah.
And basically, we're looking to figure out how to get this technology out into the market, and if they can help, we'd want to work with them. And that was somewhat of the email. And they ended up, I ended up getting some responses back with Nikolai, and
you got him here.
Yep, I got him here, and once we got the 36 gallon per minute one built, he's the one that recommended doing that. And I talked to Israel and a few people, they recommended doing that. And it's a lot of just reaching out. And
Yes.
That's when we raised the money, because we knew.
How much did you guys raise?
At that time we raised 100,000, and then that gave us enough money to build the 36 gallon per minute one and get the warehouse and stuff like that.
Warehouse.
And then to do some research and development, like working and doing mechanical simulation work and all kinds of stuff. But that allowed us to do that, so we could get the information that Nikolai and everybody needed. And he came out here and just recently to see what that money went towards, and basically he, as I've told you, it's he gave us a clear roadmap of testing it for 6 more months, and then.
Who is he? Is he like engineer?
Yeah, he's an engineer, and he basically is with Saudi Arabia. They employ him, to what I understand, to oversee like all 30 of their plants right now and optimize it. So he's there. He's the most trusted expert, basically. He's the highest in the world. So
so like, do you think his interest in this?
Yeah, so his interest on his side probably would be to bring our technology over there, because they're trying to optimize their stuff. Yeah, so him helping come here and find us and bring us over would really do a lot for his career as well. So
True.
Yeah, so that's partially why he came down, and he was excited by the technology and gave us a clear roadmap of some testing, and then getting funding from them, large funding, and then testing the commercial unit, and then getting a signed thing from the king basically saying that they can buy it.
That's a big deal.
Yep, once we have that, then
King himself.
the king himself, you don't get to say as much anymore. But
Are we allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, we can talk about it, and we're not going to get killed. And once we get that signed, then we can start selling it to them and providing them with a better solution for their country. And of course, work with some other bigger corporations that we have contacts with, and get that ball rolling. So
Sweet. So what do you think right now is your evaluation of the company?
So the company valuations are always tricky, so especially with tech startups, as you know. So if you don't
you consider, sorry I disturbed you.
Yeah, no, good.
Do you consider yourself as a tech company?
Yeah, we consider ourselves as almost like a tech startup to a degree, because what we do is we stick to developing good technology and testing it and stuff. So
even though you have a product, like physical product.
Yeah, we build physical products, and we have one right now. Since the company kind of can either go, as you know, with tech startups and valuation, you can do it a few different ways, and one way is to value it off of revenue and find the multiple of what your industry is and what your revenue is and evaluate it from there. So with us, it's difficult because we're going to be taking in a lot of money here coming up through selling these different units, smaller units. And then we're also moving on the larger commercial side, which we're not bringing in revenue for right now, but we're signing contracts. So it's kind of hard to figure out how much that's worth.
I
but
see.
It all depends. Well, that's what we're figuring out right now for our next fundraising round. But
What will you be like assumptions right
Yeah,
now?
right now I think it's safe to say anywhere, once we get these few deals signed, anywhere from 7 to 10 would be a safe number. So
$1 million.
yeah, that's a safe number. And then
Dollars.
yeah, and then
Not rubles.
no, dollars. And then once we get a few more the next year or two, then that triples, and then hopefully triples again, and a lot more. So
are you 100% owner right now?
no, right. I have a co-founder and then a small group of investors right now that own it, but I own majority interest. But I had to give some to my co-founder because he's been great, and then some to the investors, but still a large majority owner. So
Sweet. Well, I know that you love talking about your company, but I would like to learn a little about you. Positive you stay, and also entrepreneurial your mindset.
Yeah,
is very cool to have.
Yeah, I'm not quitting anytime soon. I'm not retiring.
Hey, here we go. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I like that mindset.
Yeah.
So
it's really, I think, once you're involved in something, as you know, so long, like with a project, like it partially becomes a part of you, you know, so you want to see it succeed. So regardless of how hard you have to work, you know, and it's once you start tasting different success along the road, you're like, oh, this actually could turn into this big thing. Then you're like, oh, I want to work as hard as I possibly can, so that way if it does fail, it's not because of me, you know?
Here we go.
So
how many hours do you give per week?
It fluctuates, but let's see, at least 60 hours. But
are you dating?
Yeah, I have a girlfriend, but just recently. But she
purpose in this life.
Yeah,
like
good question.
It has been very hard for me to respond, and people give me different responses depending on their careers, stage of life, school, family.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm very curious if that will match with theirs or how it's different.
Yeah. No, you summed it up perfectly. Like, of course it changes. Like, once you have a family, your purpose more goes to your family. But for a long time, the purpose of it was to like basically lead and build the best story I can for my life. Like basically make it into a story and make the best story for myself. So if I was living in something, I'd want to watch that movie. That was my life. I'd want to watch it. So and then of course the thing is to help people too. So the self-validation, and then also basically, you know, being as successful as you can so you can help as many people as possible, and then build stuff that helps people, you know, because that's the number one most important thing is people. At the end of the day, that's all there is. It's just, you know, yourself. You can always make new stuff. It's like that's so true. Yeah, and always buy new stuff and everything, but at the end of the day, the people is what matter most. So yeah, helping people, and then having a good journey in life, you know, because you never know, like you can. You know, there's of course different religions for different things, for different people and so forth, but if you want to be safe, then, you know, live your life the best you can, help as many people as you can, don't hurt anybody, of course, and then, you know, live every experience you want to live. So, you know, yeah, that's kind of how I try to live it.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, well, I'm sure a couple of my
and drink a lot, of course.
Drink a lot. Hey, don't forget about
that helps too. But
of course, my couple of my amazing listeners will find this very valuable, your advice.
Yeah.
And how old are you now?
Just turned 21.
21.
Yeah.
So what will you tell yourself back 7 years ago?
Yeah. The biggest thing I could give is, you know, if you're persistent long enough, things will happen. So if you continue to be persistent and educate yourself, and not give up, even if it might take years like it took me, eventually something's going to work out, and it's better than not doing anything at all. So, you know, your level of commitment will decide that, but how quickly you succeed. And of course, there's plenty of times where you fail for years and stuff. That's just normal. But
part of life.
Yeah, it's part of life. But at the end of it, you know, if you succeed early, then you're like some people you see, like, you know, some people get lucky with tech startups and they succeed, but then at the end of the day, they try to do a new one, and they have to do like 3 or 4 more, and all 3 or 4 more fail because the first one they got lucky on, they didn't understand it. So if things go hard for you in the beginning, that's good. You want to learn from it. That way you don't make bigger mistakes as you know, get bigger and bigger in your career. But yeah, persistence. If you keep staying on the path and keep learning from your mistakes and really pushing hard, then you're going to succeed eventually. That's a big one. And then some other advice I could give, product-wise, and product-wise, this is one, is keeping things simple in your company, as simple as possible, and making sure that you're thinking ahead in your company. So you have, your 1 month plan, your 6 month plan, year plan, 2-year plan. It doesn't have to be, of course, plans change instantly. So
Yes.
it doesn't have to be definite, but just thinking where you want to be in the next 6 months to a year to two really helps. And then your goal for your company, always set high goals, never set low goals. So, for us, it's like to be involved in giving the world fresh water, right? So if you set smaller goals, then, most people get to I don't know what it is, like 50% or something. I don't know the right number of the goal they set. So if you set the highest goal, sometimes, at least if you fail, you're going to get somewhat high in achievement, but if you're persistent. So that's another one, keeping your project simple, that having a good roadmap of where you want to go helps keep that simple. And then when you're building the product, I'm not as specialist in any way, but the thing that's always helped me was, always keep in contact with your customer. Make sure that when you innovate that, or have an innovative idea, no one else is doing it. Because I've done that plenty of times where I thought, oh, this is really innovative, nobody else has this, and spent a lot of time on it, and then realized other people are already doing it and doing it better. So, but yeah, keeping things simple. That way, especially in hardware, less maintenance, less problems, and then if you become specialized in one thing really well, then you can really take over the market. And sometimes you want to take over the whole thing right away, but you need that foothold first. And when it comes to raising money, there's a lot of online resources. This one thing just from not having a lot of money when I started stuff is there's a website called PDF Drive. I don't know if this is illegal or not.
PDF?
Yeah, PDF Drive. Basically, you can go on there and type in most books, and you can get them for free and download them as a PDF. But
I'll make sure to cut this part if it's allowed.
If it's not allowed. But so there's certain books that are really good for raising money, like Venture Deals.
Venture Deals?
Yep, that's a good book. There's a few different books I can try to recommend, but Venture Deals, books on the actual lingo behind deals, like legal wise. And then there's a lot of online resources. Just Googling can really help you a lot. Y Combinator, they're an online resource. They have a lot of free legal agreements. LegalZoom does too. And then one thing you'll find out when you're trying to put together legal agreements, if you don't have the money for a business attorney, one tactic that I've always done was I do my research, figure out what's usually needed. I'll try to talk to as many people that have done it before in the past. And there's a good community of mentors here. And then if you still don't have the money for the business attorney, then you can find documents, templates online, and adjust those to what you need. And then if you have a small amount of money, then you can have a business attorney look at it for just an hour, just skim it over and give you his ideas. That saves a lot of money when you're raising money. Instead of hiring a business attorney or somebody to write something, like a contract when you're raising money, and they charge you a ton of, for 10, 20 hours, you do it pretty much all yourself, and they just review it for an hour or two. That's a good piece of advice. And it depends on what you're doing wise, but for starting a company too, one of the most important things, if you want to move fast especially, is finding people that are talented in building a really good team. I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am now if I didn't have the team I've been able to kind of get with over time. So that's really big. My co-founder, Zach Manweiler, without him I would be, far behind.
Maybe.
So, finding good team members. And then, people are always afraid to give out equity or whatever it is to people. As long as you're doing it reasonably, and there's ways to figure out how much somebody's time's worth, how much the company's worth, and figuring out from there. But, you have to be smart with that. But, it is worth giving away equity early on if a person has a lot of talent, and they deserve it. So, if and that's something too, is a lot of people, they might get help and they won't give anything back. That really hurts you. I would definitely recommend not doing that. It's, at the end of the day, there's all kinds of things you can do. Like, if your idea is good enough, you're going to make plenty of money anyway. So it's like, unless you're trying to be the richest man or woman in the world, and most likely you're not going to do that with just one thing. So, it's worth giving it to people. And if you're really worried about control over your company, there's ways, and you can talk to other mentors in the community here. Doc knows a lot, Dr. Provost. But there's ways to still maintain control of your company and sell large portions of your company or give large portions of your company away to people. So there's just, you can do agreements and so forth. So, working with people is one of the most important things to do. I
like
it.
it.
Yeah. So that's a long ramble. But
no, that's a very valuable, very helpful. I actually wrote down a book, plus I recorded. I'm sure a lot of people will find it helpful. Seriously. Thanks so much, Hunter. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, it was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Well,
I'll come back on too. Well, thank you for yours.
I really appreciate it, seriously. Hopefully, wish you success and all the accomplishments. Hope next year or even next month, you will be somewhere in Saudi Arabia wearing all this clothing on a camel.
That's right. That's my plan. I want to be on a camel, drinking some nice. They don't serve alcohol.
I don't